He looked at my pregnant belly, smirked at his sister, and said, "We don't even know if it's mine." And his entire family laughed. I was 6 months pregnant, sitting at his family's dinner table, and the man I had spent years trying to have a baby with, the man who held me while I cried after 2 miscarriages, the man who said, "We'll get there, we always do," made a DNA test joke while his sister called me a joke of a mother, and nobody said a word to stop them, not one person. I put down my fork, pushed back my chair, stood up, looked him dead in the eyes, and said, "You're right. This child doesn't deserve a father like you," and I walked out. That was the beginning of the end of everything I thought I knew, and the beginning of the only thing that actually mattered. Let me take you back. Marcus and I had been trying for years, and I mean years. 2 miscarriages, 1 chemical pregnancy. I cried in bathrooms, in grocery store aisles, in my car in parking lots because I didn't want him to see me fall apart again. We spent money we didn't really have on ovulation strips and tracking apps and vitamins that made me nauseous every single morning. He was there through all of it, physically there, holding me, saying the right things. "We'll get there. We always do." So when I finally saw 2 pink lines on that test, I was shaking. I was smiling so hard my face physically hurt. I took 4 more tests just to be sure. I booked a blood test to confirm. I spent a whole day just holding this thing privately before I told him because I wanted to make sure it was real before I handed it to someone else.
When I told him, he blinked. No smile, no hug, no "oh my God," or "are you serious?" or "I can't believe it." He just looked at me and said, "Okay." I actually laughed. I thought he was in shock. I said, "You're in shock, right?" And he said, "I just need time to process." Then he picked up his phone and went back to scrolling. I remember the screen was on some forum thread about mechanical keyboards. I stared at it for too long, trying to understand how that could be where his attention went after what I just told him, but I let it go. I told myself he was overwhelmed. People react strangely to big news sometimes. He just needed time. Except time kept passing and nothing changed. He never asked about my appointments, never touched my belly, never asked how I was feeling. If I brought the baby up, he would change the subject or go completely silent, the kind of silence that fills a room like cold air. I started to feel like I was watching my own pregnancy through a window that he stood behind but never opened. One night I asked him flat out, "Do you still want this?" He said, "I don't know what you want me to say." Then he walked out and went to play his games. Not angry, just done, like the question bored him. I should have pushed harder right then, but I was exhausted and nauseous, and I kept telling myself something must be wrong with me. Maybe I was being too sensitive. My mom said men don't always bond until the baby's born. My friends said it was probably just his anxiety. I gave him excuse after excuse that he never asked me for. And then came the dinner. His sister Henley invited us over for one of her family catch-up nights. She's the type who photographs every meal like it's a food blog and believes she's the center of any room she walks into. His mom was there too, which was unusual since she usually stayed out of anything messy. I know now that her being there wasn't an accident. I wore a dress I hadn't been able to fit into in a while. My bump was just starting to show in a way that felt real and visible. I curled my hair. I felt good about myself for the first time in weeks. I remember thinking maybe this was the night Marcus would snap out of whatever fog he had been in. Maybe seeing me surrounded by family would make it real for him. Maybe he would finally show up the way I had needed him to. I was wrong. The moment Henley opened the door, she looked at my stomach and said, "Wow, you're finally showing." I was starting to think it was a fake pregnancy or something.
Then she laughed like it was funny. Marcus said nothing. We sat down, small talk. Wine was poured, not for me, obviously. They talked about some trip they were planning. Henley said, "Guess you won't be able to come with a baby and all." And Marcus said, "Or without, depending on how things go." And then he laughed. I pressed my fingers into my thighs under the table to stay calm. Then we moved to baby names. I mentioned one name I had been thinking about, just one, testing the waters. Henley snorted and said it sounded like a stripper name. I looked at Marcus and waited. He didn't flinch. He didn't say anything. And then he said the thing that I will never forget for the rest of my life. "We don't even know if it's mine. Ever heard of cheating and DNA tests?" His mom went pale. Henley burst out laughing, and I just sat there, completely still, like my whole nervous system had shut down trying to protect me from what I had just heard. Then Henley, because she truly has no floor, looked at me and said, "That kid's doomed with her as a mother anyway." And the whole table went quiet. Not the kind of quiet where people are about to say something, the kind of quiet where people have already chosen a side and are just waiting to see what the other side does next. I put down my fork, I pushed back my chair, I stood up and looked directly at Marcus. I said, "You're right. This child doesn't deserve a father like you." Then I turned and walked out the front door. Nobody called me. Nobody followed me. I got in my car and I drove home, and I did not stop once. He texted me 4 days later saying I had overreacted and that he was joking and just trying to lighten the mood. I did not reply. I moved in with my cousin Christy, who had a spare room and a mattress on the floor and no judgment whatsoever. I started making calls, legal consultations, financial planning. I blocked his number, blocked his mother, blocked Henley, and started building a life that had nothing to do with any of them. It was weirdly peaceful until he started showing up. Not in person at first, just things. A clearance rack onesie with a rainbow on it left in a box on the hood of my car one morning. Then a note taped to the front door that said, "I miss you, please talk to me," in handwriting I recognized immediately from the grocery lists he used to leave on the counter. Then an enormous crib box left outside the apartment door, one of those convertible ones that turns into a toddler bed. Expensive, clearly meant to say, "I'm serious this time." I dragged it inside and left it unopened in the hallway. Then he showed up himself. I was walking downstairs to throw out trash when I saw him standing by the mailboxes like he was waiting for a package. He was holding a paper bag with a stuffed animal sticking out the top. He looked up, saw me, and flinched. He said he just wanted to talk, just 5 minutes, just to explain. I said no. He muttered something under his breath about me being dramatic and cold and how he was trying to make things right. I walked straight up to him, took the bag out of his hand, and threw it in the trash bin right next to us. I told him he did not get to show up with overpriced furniture and stuffed animals and pretend that what happened was just a bad moment. He said he was sorry, said he was scared, said he was overwhelmed, said he didn't mean it. I asked him which part he didn't mean, the DNA joke or the part where he sat silent while his sister announced that my child was doomed. He tried a different approach. He said he had already told his mom they were working it out, that she was planning to come visit when the baby was born, that he just wanted to keep things quiet for now so it didn't become a whole thing. I stared at him. He had told his family we were back together without saying a word to me, without asking, without even a conversation. He had just announced a reconciliation that never happened because it was easier than admitting what he had done. I did not say another word. I turned around, walked upstairs, locked the door, and sat on the floor of the hallway for 10 minutes just breathing. 2 days later, I loaded that crib box into Christy's car, drove it to his mother's house, knocked on her door, and when she opened it, I pushed it inside and told her that her son had lied to her, that we were not working things out, that we never would be, and that if anyone from their family came near me or my child after the birth, I would file a restraining order so fast it would make all of their heads spin. She said, quietly, that I was making this harder than it had to be. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud, Because that is always the line, isn't it? Women who refuse to absorb cruelty quietly are always the ones making things difficult. We are always the dramatic ones, the emotional ones, the ones who just need to calm down and see reason. I walked out and slammed the door. I never heard from him directly after that, but I heard he was telling people I had a hormonal breakdown, that he was being patient with me, that he forgave me even though I had lashed out. He was casting himself as the reasonable one, the forgiving one, the man who tried while I fell apart. It was so predictable, I almost respected the commitment. My daughter was born in early spring. She came a little early. She was healthy and perfect and had this tiny wrinkle between her eyebrows, like she had already decided to be suspicious of everything, which honestly felt right. Christy was with me in the delivery room. Elizabeth came the next morning with bagels and a balloon. I did not tell Marcus. I did not tell his sister. I did not put his name on the birth certificate. Some people said that was harsh. I said he had made his feelings about this pregnancy extremely clear at a dinner table in front of witnesses, and I had no obligation to reverse that. A few months into new motherhood, formula stains on every shirt I owned, hot coffee a distant memory, a message came in from someone I hadn't expected. Carter, Marcus's old best friend, the one they had a falling out with years ago. Marcus had told me Carter got weird, started blaming him for things. I never pushed. Carter's message said he had heard what happened, and there was something I should probably know, that it might explain a lot. I almost didn't respond. Baby was asleep on my chest. I was exhausted, but curiosity won. What he told me reframed everything. Years before he met me, back in his early 20s, Marcus had gotten someone pregnant. Not a serious relationship, just a few months. When she told him she was pregnant, he did not react badly. He had a complete meltdown. He begged her not to have the baby, said he wasn't cut out for it, said it would ruin his life. She made her own decision and terminated the pregnancy. And Marcus, instead of processing that loss or his own part in it with any kind of honesty, twisted it into something else entirely. He convinced himself that pregnancy was a trap, that women used babies as leverage, that a positive test was always about power and control. He built a wall of resentment around fatherhood so thick that by the time he met me, it was just part of who he was. He just never told me. Carter said he had noticed it for years. The dark jokes about getting tied down, the comments about never trusting a positive test. He had brushed them off as just Marcus being cynical, until the bitterness started getting meaner, more specific. And when I had my miscarriages, Carter said looking back, Marcus had seemed more relieved than grieving. The support he showed me was performance. The flinching when I showed him baby things was the truth. I sat with that information for a long time. It made me sick, not because I doubted it, but because it fits so perfectly. It explained every silent moment, every subject change, every time he let me wonder if something was wrong with me, instead of just telling me the truth. He let me carry 2 years of trying and 2 losses and all of that hope and exhaustion completely alone, because he had already made up his mind and didn't have the basic decency to say so. I posted a photo, not a curated one, not a look how well I'm doing one. Me and my daughter on the living room floor. She had just spit up on me. I had not washed my hair in days. She was wearing a onesie that said "Raised by Wolves and Thriving." My caption was one line. "You said she was a mistake. She's the only thing I've never doubted." I knew he would see it because Henley watches everything Christy posts, and Christy had shared it, and Henley cannot help herself. Less than an hour later, he messaged me, said the photo was unfair, said I was dragging him publicly, said I was alienating his daughter from him. His daughter, after everything. I wrote back, "You alienated yourself the second you made DNA jokes in front of your entire family. What exactly are you trying to come back to? The baby you never wanted, or the image you're trying to fix?" He left me on read. A letter came from his mother a few days later. handwritten, careful, about how children need both parents, about how Brandon had struggled but was trying, about the long-term emotional impact of denying a child access to her father. I read it once, folded it, and put it in the memory book I had started keeping for my daughter. Not the sweet kind of baby book, a real one. Screenshots, letters, the whole truth. Because one day she is going to ask questions, and she deserves real answers. I ran into Henley at a store a few weeks after that. She saw me in the baby aisle, tried to walk past me without making eye contact. I called her name. She stopped, put on her smile, asked how the baby was. I told her she was great. Then Henley said that Brandon was hurting, that he felt like I was punishing him. I said he is being punished with the truth. She said I didn't have to be cruel. I said neither did he. And I walked away, and I have not thought about her since. 6 years passed. My daughter, I'll call her Jay, is 6 now. Curious, sharp, full of her own opinions about everything. She collects rocks she names like pets. She still doesn't ask about her father. She knows somewhere out there she has one, but it doesn't seem to weigh on her. She just feels like herself. Then a letter arrived with no return address. Plain envelope, just my name on it. I recognized the handwriting before I even opened it. I hadn't seen it in 6 years, but it was instantly familiar. He said he had been in therapy, said he was sorry, said he had made a lot of mistakes and was working on them, said he thought about Jay all the time, said he knew he didn't have a right to anything, but if there was any possibility that I might let him just see her, even just once from a distance, he would be grateful. I read it once, folded it, and put it in the junk drawer. I didn't tell anyone. I just sat with it for a few days, not because I was confused, but because I wanted to think before I reacted. And then I made a decision. Not for him, not even really for her, just because I thought he should see exactly what he walked away from. I texted him from an old number. Saturday, 3 in the afternoon, Lakeside Park, bench by the willow. You sit. You do not approach. You do not speak to her. 10 minutes. He replied within the hour, said he would be there, said thank you. I didn't respond. The morning of, Jay grabbed her purple hoodie and asked if we could get ice cream after. That was the whole thing for her, just a park trip and maybe ice cream. When we got there, I saw him before he saw us. Sitting on the bench, a little thinner than I remembered, same fidgeting with his hands when he's nervous, staring at the ground. When he looked up and saw her, he froze. She didn't notice him. She was already ahead of me on the path, balancing on the edge of the curb like it was a tightrope, yelling for me to watch. I walked up slowly. He stood. I stopped a few feet away and kept my voice quiet. I told him this was his one chance to see her, and he needed to remember what he said 6 years ago, that he was the one who announced in front of his entire family that this baby might not even be his, that he stayed silent while his sister said she was doomed, that he made her a punchline before she was even born, that I didn't care what therapy had done for him or what he felt now. He left. He stayed gone. She grew up without him, and she is fine. Better than fine. He didn't argue. He just stood there looking like he was trying not to fall apart completely. Jay ran back to me holding a rock she said that looked exactly like a potato. She wanted to keep it as a pet rock. I said okay. She asked if we could get ice cream now. I said yes. We started walking and she waved at him. Not because she knew who he was, just the polite wave she gives strangers. I looked back once. I said, "You've seen her. That's more than you earned. Don't contact us again." Then we walked away. He didn't follow. I don't know what he thought would happen. Maybe he thought seeing her would change the equation somehow. Maybe he thought she would sense something. She didn't. She was thinking about ice cream. He missed 6 years of everything. 6 years of first words, first steps, scraped knees, weird art, bad jokes, the rock that looks like a potato. 6 years of the realest, most ordinary, beautiful life. And he missed all of it because he was too afraid and too dishonest and too determined to protect himself to be honest with me when it would have actually mattered. Now all he gets to keep is the image of a little girl in a purple hoodie walking away without looking back. I don't hate him for it. I don't forgive him either. There's just nothing left there for me to feel. He showed me who he was at that dinner table 6 years ago, and I believed him. The only difference now is that my daughter never had to.